Hysteria ensues on Twitter as both sides insist that their candidate won, so we'll talk a bit about what's going on there. Some mysterious timestamps have shown up, and we don't know at which point where the votes are going for Jorgensen and what happened with her, so we'll talk just a bit about that. Demonstrators assemble near the White House, so we'll talk a bit about what happened there, and we will check in with Stephen Ignoramus. Hopefully, we'll see him in the chat and make sure that he's okay. It looks like I saw him in his Discord, so we at least know that he got home safe. And the U.S. has officially exited the Paris Climate Accord because things happened yesterday other than the election. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, folks, and welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. We've got not as much stuff as we usually have to get to on a day like today, but we've still got a bunch of stuff to get to, a bunch of stuff to see, and nobody knows what happened last night. And I mean, I look back at this, and well, we'll talk about what happened there. Hopefully, some of you guys hung out with us over on the live stream and saw what was going on and got to see what went along with that. But yeah, there was a bunch of stuff. A bunch of stuff has changed, and we won't know probably for a couple days. And I don't know, man. I'm starting to look at the fact that liberty may be like a small animal in the hands of Lenny. But before we get started, even though I didn't put the page up there, head on over to freedomscoop.com. Freedomscoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. We carry great shows such as The Generational Gap, The Daily Ignoramus, The Freckles and Brit Show, who were live last night, the R-rated conservative who came back and joined me last night, and The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, who ran a concurring stream against me last night. So all of us were over there. We're going to have some live streams up for you guys to watch over on the website, so go over there, check us out, pick up some of our swag, and help us support great creators. Looking over to the Dow, it looks like everything was up yesterday. Once again, we're back in the 27,000 range, and it looks like the futures are looking well. The investors are hedging their bets and seeing what it is that we're going to see coming up off the rest of the day. 27,480.03 was the close yesterday. It was up 2.6%, and the futures are saying that it's going to go a little bit further than that. Let me move this one over here because I want to start with this one. Let's kill the Dow graph, and let's have a look at what they have to say over at Investors Business Daily. Let me get the live chat up here for you guys so we can see what's going on with that. Make sure that I do have everything up off of this. All right. Going along with Investors Business Daily, Dow Jones jumps 600 points in Election Day rally as Biden leads Trump from Nancy Gondo. That's a new name from IBD, but let's see what's going on there. Key markets and indices extended their gains midday Tuesday with the Dow Jones Industrial Average roaring 600 points higher on Election Day. The Dow Jones Industrials rallied 2.5%. The S&P 500 rose 2.3%, and the Nasdaq gained 2.2% in the stock market rally. Small caps tracked by Russell 2000 also rose 2.2%. Volume was slightly higher on both major exchanges versus the same time on Monday. The final IBD TIPP Trump versus Biden poll shows former Vice President Joe Biden leading the national popular vote on Election Day, which we knew was going to happen. But the poll also hints that the race may be close enough to keep the president's electoral college chances high. Amid recent volatility, the Nasdaq's year-to-date gain has been cut to 22%, while the S&P 500 was up 2% through Monday's close. The Dow is down 6%, and the Russell 2000 is now 6% underwater this year. The Dow Jones Index, which wrapped up September with a 2.3% loss, has fallen below its 50-day moving average. On September 30th, the IBD stock market outlook was upgraded to a confirmed uptrend. Worldwide coronavirus cases have topped 47.5 million, with more than 1.2 million deaths, according to the Worldometer. In the U.S., confirmed cases are approaching 9.6 million, with a death toll over 237,000. So we will see what is happening with that. Not a lot going on with the stocks on this one, and they don't have the futures coming from this particular author, but we do have a couple more articles talking about the futures. So moving on over into CNBC. Stock futures rise as investors await election winner. Tech shares jump from Fred Imbert and Yoon Lee. Stupid mouse. U.S. stock futures rose Wednesday, led by tech shares, even as the results of the presidential contest so far failed to yield a clear winner. The Dow Jones Industrial Average futures climbed 60 points, or 0.2%. S&P 500 futures traded 1.3% higher. NASDAQ 100 futures popped 3.2% as investors crowded back into the trade that's been working for most of this tumultuous year. I think the big news of the markets right now is, at least as it looks preliminarily, is that there's not going to be a blue wave, which is generally supportive for markets, says Mike Lewis, managing director of U.S. equity cash trading at Barclays. Yet we'll talk about the races here in just a second. On CNBC's Squawk Box, I think that the outlook going forward for markets is this is going to be more about policy, and the Fed, than it's going to be about politics, which is a good thing for the markets. Earlier in the overnight session, futures contracts with the Dow and S&P 500 came under some pressure after President Trump tried to claim victory, even though millions of legitimate votes were not yet counted. You're going to be seeing a lot of this today. We're getting ready for a big celebration. We're winning everything, and all of a sudden it was just called off, Trump said. We'll be going to the U.S. Supreme Court. We want all voting to stop. The worst voting, we want it to stop. Which is probably not something that you should probably be saying right now, given everything else that we have going along with this, but I digress on that one. I don't know what that is. Hang on just a sec. We don't want them to find any ballots at 4 o'clock in the morning and then add them to the list, he added. Democratic nominee Joe Biden appeared to be unable to take North Carolina, with Trump holding a lead in the state, according to NBC News. However, Biden was leading in Arizona, although NBC News said it was too early to call the state. Key swing states, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, could take days to determine. Yeah, we'll talk a bit about that. So they're going to go into election news at this point here, so we're going to hold off on that because I got a whole stack of that over here. So we'll let the investors do the investing, and we'll talk about the elections. But I want to take this one other one here from Fox, if it loads, and see what they're going to see for the markets. Maybe. There it goes. Dow adds 554 points as stocks post the best election day since 2008. From Chris Ciaccia. Stocks rallied, posting the second best election day performance ever, as voters hit the polls to cast their ballots for the next president, either former Vice President Joe Biden or incumbent Donald Trump. The Dow Jones Industrial Average jumped more than 554 points, a gain of 2%, while the S&P 500 rose 1.8%. And looks like we've got ticker here for everything else that we have going on here. Oil has been recovering. West Texas Intermediate crude rose for a second day, climbing 2.8% to over $37 a barrel, which means I'm going to have to go and get some gas today because it is down under $185 in town, and I want to take advantage of that sweet, sweet crude. Despite the rise in crude oil, shares of big oil companies fell on Tuesday as ExxonMobil, Chevron, and ConocoPhillips all declined. Among the issues for voters is an economy in a slow recovery. Trump, during the final hour of trading, touted the recent 33.1% jump in GDP, which almost wipes out the 38% drop that we had earlier on in the second quarter. There's the ad for that. While Biden tweeted a compilation of his characteristics, including science over fiction. This is our moment to choose. Hope over fear. Unity over division. Science over fiction. Truth over lies. Vote. IWillVote.com. So, yeah, it looks like we did see a fairly substantial jump in the markets. And once again, we have no idea what's going to happen off of this. And, well, we'll talk about it. Let's look at the map. So, starting up here with the Fox News map, because that's the one that has the most filled in. And the AP has some other stuff in here too, but for the most part, we're seeing right now a big wall of red over here. Nevada getting ready to lean blue. Michigan leaning blue. That's a new one overnight. That just happened up off of this, because they had a pretty substantial hurdle to clear. So that's new off of this. Wisconsin, I knew for a fact that Wisconsin was going to go for Biden. And I told Seawall this numerous times, and he kept saying, "Well, look at all the votes that he has to overcome at this point. There's no way. He's going to do it. Trump's going to pull it. He's going to hold it." And I said, "No, He's not going to hold it. I've seen this 2 elections in a row in this state. He's not going to hold it. Because at the very 11th hour, thousands of absentee ballots are going to come in. Now, I want to see where he is percentage-wise in this one here, because I want to see if it's popped over 1%. Now, in my state, if the count gets over 1%, then they can't call for a recount. There's no automatic recount in Wisconsin, but if it gets over 1%, then they can't call for a recount at all. But I don't think this map is going to tell me that. All right. Anyway, looks like Michigan got enough votes in to lean blue, and they had a pretty substantial amount to overcome. Let's zoom that back out onto this one here. That's happened just since I started up here. 18,000 votes could swing this back for President Trump, but once again, where are we going to find 18,000 votes in the counties that are still going off of this? Pennsylvania is going to be the one to watch, but I mean, there's 26 right there against 238. That's 260, 264. Plus Nevada, that pushes him over. That pushes Biden over, and I'm pretty sure that Nevada is going to go blue off this one. So definitely some stuff to be watching over here. But once again, now we look at Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. Pennsylvania has got a still substantial lead to overcome North Carolina. Much less so, but they've still got 3 days to come out, or 9 days rather, to come out and find their votes. And Georgia, I don't know why they don't just call that for Trump at this point, because that's a very substantial lead to go back over on this point. So, but yeah, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Nevada, election's over. Or so they say. I know that there's going to be a lot more that comes off of this here, and a lot of this will depend on what comes out of the recounts because, as I mentioned, I know my state is 1%. You have to be within 1% to get a recount at all. And it would be interesting if they left the absentees out there in order to leave them under 1% and get the recount. It would be 2020, but it would be interesting to see. So we'll see what happens with this one here. Sticks X and Hammer over there on YouTube says, oh, ha ha ha, Wisconsin now leans very slightly blue because late ballots came in that just coincidentally amounted to a bit more than Biden needed. Ain't that quacking crazy? And then we've got a few other comments that with that, statistically impossible that a fresh batch of counted votes is all Biden. Well, no, they've done it twice in this state, so no, that's not statistically impossible. That's a statistic guarantee at this point. I think we're going to have a confirmation that Steven's okay because he just popped in over on the Instagram side, so hopefully Steven's okay. Hopefully we get to see that. And then, of course, the other comments are, dear God, you guys really think it's fraud, huh? Loud Citizen says, in one place they're throwing out votes in Sharpie that I think that they're supplying. So we will see what happens off of this here, and a little bit more going on with this. From The Blaze, Biden and Trump both speak to the nation as the vote count continues. Election day passed without a winner decided. From Breck Dumas, Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden and President Donald Trump both delivered speeches to the American public in the early hours of Wednesday morning as vote tallies continued to roll in from Election Day without a victor decided. Both candidates expressed confidence in the close race and both held pathways to victory. We feel really good about where we are. We really do, Biden told a crowd in Delaware. I'm here to tell you tonight, I believe we're on track to win this election. The former vice president explained, we knew because of the unprecedented voter fraud that we put out there to make sure that I won. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not what he said. We knew because of the unprecedented early vote and mail-in vote that it was going to take a while. We're going to have to be patient until the hard work of tallying votes is finished. And it ain't over till every vote is counted. Every ballot is counted. Okay, I don't know why I got confused because that's literally the same thing that I said the first time when I paraphrased it. President Trump spoke following Biden from the East Room of the White House, pointing to tremendous wins in states called for him, such as Texas, Florida, and Ohio. While citing the projected numbers, the president went on to claim, we're getting ready to win this election Frankly, we did win this election. The best election. The greatest election. Stephen is good, by the way. Stephen is safe. We were getting worried there at some points, actually, with another article that I have up here, too, later on in the stack. We were getting a little bit worried. Frankly, we did win the election. Our sole goal now is just to ensure the integrity for the good of this nation. This is a very big moment, the best moment. This is a major fraud on this nation. We want the law to be used in a proper manner, the president continued. So we'll be going to the U.S. Supreme Court. We want all voting to stop. We don't want them to find any ballots at 4 o'clock in the morning and add them to the list. Well, what about 8:30 in the morning? You may watch Trump's speech in its entirety below. He begins speaking around the 20-hour mark, or 20-minute mark. I don't know which one it is, but we're not going to watch this one here. At the same time the president spoke, no winner had been declared in 7 states: Alaska, Nevada, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Wisconsin, and Michigan. The New York Times projected at that point that Biden would likely win Nevada, and that Trump would likely take Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. No predictions were yet available for Alaska, although most analysts expect his 3 electoral votes to go to Trump. So, we'll see up off of this one here. According to projections from Fox News, Biden held 238 to Trump's 213. Coming right down to the wire, because this is 2020, and why would this be anything else? Alright, let's keep going off of this one. The Fox ones always take forever to load. Mostly because they've got this stupid autoplay video up here. Trump claims victory with many states still undeclared, hints at possible Supreme Court case. From Brooke Singman. President Trump declared victory in multiple key battleground states early Wednesday, even though it remained unclear who had the votes to win, as Trump hinted the White House would push Supreme Court rule over disputed ballots, warning that a very sad group of people was trying to disenfranchise voters. The president, speaking from the East Room of the White House alongside First Lady Melania Trump, Vice President Mike Pence, and Second Lady Karen Pence, thanked his supporters and touted record turnout. I want to thank the American people for their tremendous support, the best support. Millions and millions of people voted for us tonight, and a very, very sad group of people is trying to disenfranchise that group of people, and we will not stand for it, Trump said. We won't stand for it. Jen O'Malley Dillon, Joe Biden's campaign manager, said in a statement that Trump does not decide the outcome of this election. Joe Biden does not decide the outcome of this election. The American people decide the outcome of this election. Wealthy donors decide the outcome of this election, and fuck you if you think otherwise. The American people and the democratic process must and will continue its conclusion. The president was able to declare victory late Tuesday in battleground states of Florida, Ohio, and Iowa, and was able to clinch a big electoral win in traditionally red Texas, among other states Fox News projected. But another number of key battleground states, including Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Georgia, and North Carolina, were too close to call. So we will be seeing what happens with them. We won states we weren't expecting to win, Trump said. Florida, we didn't win it. We won it by a lot. We won the great state of Ohio. We won Texas. It's also clear that we've won Georgia, Trump said. Despite that race not being called, they're never going to catch us. They can't catch us. Well, yeah. That's not what the map looks like here, but he's going to come out with this big bravado here, and a lot of this is going to get decided in the courts, and especially in lower courts, so we'll be seeing a lot more of this here. This election is not over, and we have the rest of the week to sit and watch and see what happens. All right, from the Hill, Biden campaign blasts Trump victory, claiming it as outrageous, unprecedented, and incorrect. From Brett Samuels. The Biden campaign early Wednesday ripped President Trump's outrageous comments, in which he claimed victory in the presidential election, even as more than a million votes were still being counted. Biden campaign manager Jen O'Malley Dillon issued a blistering rebuke of Trump's remarks from the White House, where he also pledged to ask the Supreme Court to halt the counting of the ballots. The counting will not stop. It will continue until every duly cast vote is counted, because that is what our laws, the laws that protect every American's constitutional right to vote, require, O'Malley Dillian said in a statement, calling Trump's comments a naked effort to take away the democratic rights of American citizens. She said that the Biden campaign is prepared to battle Trump in court if he follows through to try to stop the tabulation of votes, and she expressed confidence that the process will end with Joe Biden being elected president. We repeat what the vice president said tonight. Donald Trump does not decide the outcome of this election. Joe Biden does not decide the outcome of this election, O'Malley Dillian said. The American people decide the outcomes of this election, and the democratic process must and will continue until its conclusion. So we'll see what happens with that. And yeah, like I said, Michigan flipped. It turned. Oh, I closed that map already. Never mind. So we'll see what's going on with that. Let's keep going. A little bit of stuff on the Jorgensen front. From Reason, which is not a Green Check verified publication, but I know a few people over there, so I wanted to talk a little bit about what was going on with this. And the other part of this election, maybe Joe Jorgensen finishing with 1% would actually be pretty good. From Matt Welch. As dawn broke on the final day of voting in election 2020, Libertarian Party presidential nominee Joe Biden was polling nationally at around 1.8%, and above the margin between President Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden in 5 states: Ohio, Texas, Georgia, Iowa, and in scant polling, Alaska. That's a far cry from 2016 Libertarian nominee Gary Johnson's last pre-election polling average of 4.8%, or even the former New Mexico governor's disappointing to many final tally of 3.28%. Beating Gary's last numbers would be a success, Jorgensen told Reason's Eric Beam 1 month ago, while also complaining about not being included in nearly as many polls this cycle. I'm hoping to beat this or his second run, but put it this way, I will consider it not a success if I don't at least beat his numbers from his first run. Johnson's 2012 exertions won him 0.99% of the national vote, or just a hair under the LP's then record haul of 1.06% in 1980. A ticket headed by Ed Clark and financed by deep-pocketed vice presidential nominee David Koch. Yes, that one. So what Jorgensen is saying, that anything below 1% would be a disappointment. So, and it's looking like she is going to be up over 1%, but there are some shenanigans that are going around with Jorgensen too, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But as far as Reason goes, I mean, there is a place for third parties off of this. We had 2 of the most unlikable candidates for 2 elections in a row. And I didn't care for Jorgensen's platform, but I respect the people that voted for her to give the thought that we don't need to go through this major duopoly. I am not voting for a party, I'm voting for a person, and that's how I voted this year. So I can't just go LP down a ticket and say, okay, we'll just go LP, 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 R, 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 D, 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 D. I can't do any of that anymore because the parties have changed so vastly, and for the most part, most of the candidates that are running for all the parties, including the LP, suck balls. But getting the recognition up there, I mean, full on out. You're seeing the fact that Jorgensen is taking popularity. Social media is a big boon to getting us off the fact that we have to vote for one bastard or the other. And then we can go down and look and actually have somebody hold them to account. And I don't anticipate a third party winning for a very, very long time in this country still. I think that's still a far off, long time dream to get a third party in and edge out one of the other 2 major parties. But on the other side of that, getting more recognition for them holds both of the parties to account. And both of the parties do have to try and court the voters who can otherwise go to the third party, holding them into account and making sure that they are looking at a liberty mindset, a mindset that goes with liberty. And I've said from the beginning, as long as I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, that's where I was going with that. Liberty is the big thing that's on the ballot for this. And I've said right from the beginning, under a Trump presidency, especially with a Republican Congress, House and Senate, Liberty is going to be, it's going to be killed, but it's going to be killed in a slow boil. We've got 4 years to come back and reassess the situation, figure out what we did wrong, and get more liberty in. Maybe invade the GOP a little bit, maybe get the Libertarian Party up there, get more seats in to try and recover liberty. Under a Democrat Congress and presidency, and I don't know how many of you have read Of Mice and Men, but under that, liberty becomes a small animal in the hands of Lenny. So it's a slow boil or a quick snap of the neck. Which one would you rather see as far as liberty goes? All right, let's keep going here. Another one from Twitter. Erica Steiner put this out, and I wanted to make sure that we saw this one. If you know one of those 56,000 people in Florida who voted for Joe Jorgensen, please tell them to go, all right, let me read this right, which I'm exhausted. That's half the problem because I was up late. I've actually got my third can of Bang in 24 hours sitting here in this cup. If you know one of the 56,000 people in Florida who voted for Joe Jorgensen, please tell them to tell Joe to fuck themselves. No, that's not even what it says either. Why can't I read this right? Partially because of that typo right there. All right, we're going to do this the third time, and we're going to do this right. If you know one of the 56,000 people in Florida who voted for Joe Jorgensen, please tell them to go fuck themselves. Hashtag election night. There it is. Because Joe Jorgensen would have carried Joe Biden over the edge if every single libertarian went back and voted for Biden. I know libertarians. There's no chance in hell that that happened. In fact, for the most part, especially in southern states, where we see more right-leaning libertarians than we do in some of the northern and Rust Belt states, I think that would have bolstered Trump's lead over in Florida. All right, let's keep going from that. Libertarian candidate Joe Jorgensen declares the worst president in U.S. history, and it may surprise you. So this was a couple days ago, and I didn't feel like going in on this right away, but you know what? I thought about it again, and I said, yeah, no, I actually agree with Jorgensen on something. So let's see what she had to say. From Michael Ruiz, Joe Jorgensen weighed in on Monday on her pick for the worst president in the U.S. ever, and it wasn't commander-in-chief from recent history. It's not Donald Trump, it's not Barack Obama. Neither of them came even close to the Libertarian Party's 2020 presidential nominee tweeted. In fact, it's not any modern president. She said it was former President Woodrow Wilson, who she blamed for two great financial evils. The tweet says, I'm sometimes asked who is the worst president in the history of the U.S. It's not Trump, it's not Barack. Neither of them even came close. In fact, it's not any modern president. No, it's the worst president in history is Woodrow Wilson. Those things were the 16th Amendment, which established the federal income tax, and the Federal Reserve Act, which created the nation's central bank. Which both are things that libertarians are very, very strongly against. I'm big on repeal of the 16th because taxation is theft. But if we have to have taxation, let's at least look the people who are going to tax us in the eyes as we go to the grocery store. It should be a local thing. Anytime anybody's going to take money from you, it should be a local thing. So I still think it's theft if it comes from a local level, but I can at least look at the local representative, the city commissioner, the state representative, and say, dude, what the fuck? I can't do that to Brian Stile. I can't do that to Ron Johnson. I can't do that to Tammy Baldwin. But my local representative, when they decide to up taxes, I can look up and say, hey, dude, what the hell are you thinking? Taxation is theft. Fuck off. So that may have surprised you, especially given all the rhetoric that she railed against both candidates this time through. All right, let's keep going. From the Daily Wire, Trump on election results. We will be going to the U.S. Supreme Court. This is from Daily Wire News. President Trump responded to the presidential election results during the early morning hours on Wednesday, which showed a very tight race between Trump and Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden, by suggesting that the election could be decided in the Supreme Court. After talking for several minutes about victories that the campaign had secured, and races where the campaign believed things were still looking good. Trump called out how vote counting had seemingly stopped in critical races that had not yet been called. All of a sudden, everything just stopped, Trump said. This is fraud, the worst fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country. So our new goal is to ensure the integrity for the good of this nation. This is a very big moment, the biggest moment. This is a major fraud on the nation, the worst fraud. And I know the thing about the worst frauds. We want the law to be used in the proper manner, Trump continued. So we will be going to the U.S. Supreme Court. We want all voting to stop. We don't want them to find any ballots at 4 o'clock in the morning and add them to the list. Okay, it's very sad, very sad moment. The worst moment. And that is the transcript for the full thing and an advertisement from the Daily Wire because Ben Shapiro needs his birch gold. And that's going to finish the article as the transcript from that. So, yep. And I absolutely anticipated this one to go to the courts. And that's why I said, let's get Barrett on there so we don't have a 4-4 split. Because Roberts is going to do whatever is popular for the people. He doesn't care about judicial philosophy or what is judicial. All he cares about is doing what's going to make him popular. Let's keep going. From Sammy Summer over on Twitter. And this is an interesting one. I wanted to make sure that we had a look at this one. Sammy Summer says, look at the timestamps. They're removing votes for Jorgensen, for POTUS, and Real Spike Cohn. So let's have a look at that. So I've got a 12:03 a.m. and a 12:15 a.m. At 12:03 a.m., Trump, 2,158,770. Biden, 1,571,693. Jorgensen, 89,025. At 12:15 a.m., still in Pennsylvania, Trump, 2,286,966. Biden, wow, I can't read today. Maybe it's because I was up until 2 o'clock in the morning trying to make sense of this dumbass election. Biden, 1,674,122. Jorgensen, 46,987. So yes, between the two, they dropped a bunch of ballots back off away from Joe Jorgensen, which is interesting. I don't trust any of the numbers that are coming out right now, and I'm going to come right out and say this. Because there was a charging, commanding lead to the point that Cenk Uygur was sweating his balls off early on in the night, and it just kept seeming to overturn. So something definitely to watch here, something to check, something to recount, but my God. And I don't know where Pennsylvania is going to go. Pennsylvania is probably going to go for Trump, even with having 3 days to go find new ballots because of the massive margin that they had, even at the time that I went to bed, and some of it is overcoming as we speak. So we will see what happens with that, but definitely something to watch as the numbers go down. But I also want to point out the fact that this is on 2 different devices too. And possibly from 2 different sources. That one says from the Associated, well, they're both coming from the Associated Press, but there are 2 different sources here. So one of the other things that I want to pay attention to with this is, are these from different time zones? Because 12:03, no wait, let me think about that. Well, yeah, even if it is from 2 different time zones, that is going to be, that's an hour's difference right there too. So, but it does appear these are from 2 different devices at first glance. Maybe they're not. It's the bottom here that's bugging me out. This part right here. So I don't know. But definitely something to watch for. All right, let's keep going from The Blaze. Axios co-founder Jim Vanderhei slams media for complete fumble in election predictions, and he is not wrong. From Sarah Taylor. Jim Vanderhei, Axios co-founder and CEO, suggests the media is way out of touch with Americans based on predictions for the 2020 presidential election. Vanderhei appeared on Wednesday on MSNBC, where he said that much of the media needs to wake up and realize that they don't understand America. On one hand, a lot of this was knowable, he said, pointing out that What was not knowable was how House Republicans would way overperform this election cycle. And this is one where I think all of us have to have a little bit of humility. And a lot of people living in bubbles have to realize that they don't understand America. Donald Trump was the only person who thought that they were going to pick up House seats. Van de Heye added, Trump could still lose, but he performed way better than most people thought that he would. Look at Wisconsin, some of the polls. Somebody had a 17-point Biden lead. It looks like it's going to come down to a point or two. And so there's things happening in America that people don't realize if they're living in big cities. He pointed out that Hispanic voters came out in droves for President Trump in Florida and insisted that one vote wasn't carried only by working-class white men. In almost every state, he overperformed what people thought he would do. And so we're headed towards some really, really rocky times, Van de Heye insisted. I do think that the one thing all of us can learn is to have a little bit of humility, that there's something going on. And we talked a lot about it on the show, all these flags, the boats, everything. There's something going on out there that most of the media has been missing, Van de Heye said. And obviously Donald Trump and the Republicans are the big beneficiaries as we sit here today, even if Trump loses the presidency. So we will see what's happening with that. But even some of the media guys, some of the left-wing media guys are saying, I don't know, man, this could go either way. All right. We've got some unrest to talk about, and that's why we wanted to make sure that Stephen was doing okay. From Fox News, live updates. Protesters demonstrate near White House on election night. No author given. Some cities across the country have seen unrest Tuesday night, including Washington, D.C., where BLM flooded the streets near the White House. Many businesses in large cities had boarded up their businesses in anticipation of unrest. It looks like there's just some live blog there. So, yep, they're already going out and starting to destroy things. Several arrested in Minneapolis. Stephen did get to see one person arrested in D.C. LAPD's got some arrests and some unruly crowds. So we'll see what happens there. From The Hill, Democrat Kelly defeats Mcsally in Arizona Senate race. So, as of this point, Arizona has 2 Democrat senators. And it was a reliable red state just in 2016. Keep that in mind. Nothing is guaranteed or set in stone. From Julia Manchester, retired U.S. Navy captain and former astronaut Mark Kelly on Wednesday morning was projected to unseat Republican incumbent Arizona Senator Martha Mcsally. The Associated Press called the race at 2:51 a.m. Eastern Time. Mcsally was thought to be one of the most vulnerable Republican senators facing re-election this year. A number of recent polls had shown Kelly leading Mcsally, and Kelly consistently fundraised more than her as well. Kelly raised a whopping $37 million in the third quarter of 2020, while Mcsally raised $20 million. The Republican incumbent also had to contend with President Trump's presence in the race, even as polls showed a competitive presidential contest in Arizona, a state that has elected one Democrat nominee for president since the 1950s. In a debate last month, Mcsally repeatedly avoided directly answering whether she was proud of her support for the president. I'm proud to say that I'm fighting for Arizonans on things like cutting your taxes, Mcsally said. I'm proud to be fighting for Arizona every single day. Kelly is the husband of former Representative Gabrielle Giffords. They became vocal gun control advocates following an assassination attempt on Giffords. The former congresswoman played a major role in her husband's campaign, frequently appearing on the campaign trail and in ads with Kelly. So, yes, at this point, it does look like this is going to be a 2 Democrat senator state in Arizona. 4 years to flip Arizona. Think about that. All right, I got just a couple more here, then we'll do something I'm thankful for, and we'll head on out of here. From the Daily Wire, Mitch McConnell quickly projected as winner despite Democratic challenger getting flooded with cash. From Eric Quintanar, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has been projected as the winner of the Kentucky Senate race against Democrat Amy McGrath, a failed 2018 congressional challenger whose Senate bid led many Democrat donors to flood the race with cash. So who gets that money at the end? What happens to all that money? I've got to wonder. Fox News projected McConnell as the winner in the race shortly before 8 p.m. Eastern Time. As of 8 p.m., Fox News showed McConnell with about 61% of the vote and McGrath with about 35% of the vote, with about 35% results in 538 projected ahead of the election that McGrath only had about a 4% chance of beating McConnell. Back in 2018, McGrath lost a race to unseat Congressman Andy Barr and has since drawn in tens of millions of dollars in her bid to unseat McConnell, who is running for his 7th term in office. According to Spectrum News 1, McGrath raised $84 million from the start of her campaign to September 30th of 2020. So, for the next 6 years out of Kentucky, we get to hear about Mitch McConnell and everything that he does that is evil. And I'm going to wear the tan suit just to stick it to Obama, even though Obama's been out of office. All right, from the Blaze. New York Times accused of spreading election disinformation with now deleted tweet. From Breck Dumas. The New York Times was bombarded by online critics on social media Tuesday afternoon and into the evening for reporting that it's the responsibility of the news media to declare the winner of the presidential election to the U.S. Find all the facts and draw your own conclusions, fucksticks. I'm talking to you, New York Times. Several people even accused the newspaper of spreading election disinformation. No way! The New York Times spreading disinformation? Who would have thought? The role of declaring the winner of the presidential election in the U.S. falls to the news media, the Times wrote in a now deleted tweet. The broadcast networks and cable news outlets have vowed to be prudent. The Times provided a link to an article explaining how the media will report the election results. The article clarified that in the United States, which unlike many other countries does not have a national electoral commission, the role of projecting the winners of the presidential election falls to the news media. Twitter users lambasted the Times for the tweet, and some conservative outlets cried foul. Writer John Nolte called the message fascist in a Breitbart piece. The Post-Millennial reported that the Times were spreading election disinformation, with the tweet saying that this is not true, or just not true at all, while noting that the state election officials responsible for reporting vote tallies and electors will cast their votes accordingly. The outlet also called Twitter for failing to flag or remove the Times' incorrect tweet, accusing the platform of hypocrisy after it locked the account of the New York Post for weeks for a legitimate story about the contents of the Hunter Biden laptop. So definitely something to watch for off this. And I mean, we saw other things going out throughout the day too. Joe Biden was come out. He had a tweet talking about how he has a path to victory, wide open. And Trump's tweet about his path to victory is hidden behind the warning wall. So it goes both directions, and we will be seeing it off of there. All right, I've got one more here. Then we will do a thing that I'm thankful for and head on out of here for the day. From the Hill. U.S. officially exits the Parrot. Jesus Christ. I need more sleep, people. Let's try this again. U.S. officially exits the Paris Climate Accord. And that big type is about as much as I can read without my glasses on, by the way. From Rebecca Beach. That had been a fun name to go through high school with. The U.S. has officially left the Paris Climate Accord. The withdrawal, set in motion with a letter from President Trump exactly 1 year ago, caps a long-promised move from the president and leaves the U.S. as the only country in the world to withdraw from the landmark climate agreement. Trump campaigned on leaving the accord and announced that he was doing so far before the parameters of the agreement allowed. The Paris Climate Accord is simply the latest example of Washington entering into an agreement that disadvantages the American people to the exclusive benefit of other countries, leaving American workers, who I love, and taxpayers to absorb the cost in terms of lost jobs, lower wages, shuttered factories, and vastly diminished economic production, Trump said at a speech in the Rose Garden on June of 2017. So, we're out of it at this point. But if the map goes the way that it's looking right now and the way that it's leaning, we'll be back in it. Which means that we will be sitting back and watching what the Paris Climate Accords actually intended to do to the American people. And, well, I hope you guys have a well-stocked savings account. That's all I have to say about that. All right, and that is going to be it for the news for the day. And the last thing that we do is something that I'm thankful for on Wednesday. And, obviously, it's very obvious to see what I'm thankful for off this one here. Ben The Common Sense American, Seawall, Brian Nichols, Britt from the Freckles and Britt Show, Wyatt Birkenhoff, Spartacus, my friend over on Discord, John, Robert, Steven, everybody who came by last night, and even the people that called in, Anna Voltis, and who was the other? There was somebody else that called in. Oh, Saint at the beginning. Everybody who made last night's show awesome, even though it changed the way that we didn't want to see towards the end of the show. Everybody who came by and made last night's show awesome, I'm thankful for you guys. Because otherwise that was just going to be me talking to a microphone for 8 hours. Now, mind you, at the time, probably more coherently than I'm doing right now, but that was just going to be me talking to the microphone for 8 hours. So you guys are awesome. I love the fact that you guys sat and came by, that you guys hung out, that you guys watched and analyzed with me. There are a few things that I would have changed if I could have, but honestly, the fact that we sat there and tabulated this and had this all go together, I'm thankful for you guys. I'm thankful for everybody that watched. Hopefully, we'll see something that doesn't involve snapping the neck of liberty coming up in the next few days. But I have no faith because I see what happened in Wisconsin and Michigan, and that is the path that Biden needs for victory. So I hope that your savings accounts are stocked. I hope that you can hold out for a few years because I see a little bit of a downturn coming back in the economy, and I really hope you guys are prepared for it, especially given the fact that we're going to be locked down for 3 months. We're going to be locked down, man, for 3 months. Come on, man. We're going to get a handle on this virus, which is going to destroy U.S. manufacturing. So I hope you guys are stocked up. I hope you guys are set. And we're in for another wild ride because 2020 to 2024, no matter who wins, is going to be just as wild as 2016 to 2020. And that's going to be it for the day. Thanks to everybody who came out today, last night. Don't forget, we do read the names of everybody who chatted in the live chat on Fridays. So get your last minute messages in as I'm getting ready to close, and I'll leave everything open for a couple minutes so you can get your last minute messages in. But we will be back here tomorrow with more contemporary and probably more news on the election and not much else. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.